GlassBreakers Champions of Moss has just dropped, and this is from the same studio that brought us the third-person Moss adventure game featuring Quill, the cute little mouse. This game is completely free and very different though. This is a third-person tabletop MOBA style game where you go 1v1 against another person. Like a lot of games of this class, you've got your two bases that you are trying to protect, towers that help you defend it, and you are taking in a squad of different characters all from the Moss universe and trying to defeat your opponent's base. Of course, this base is shielded until you take down the towers, and as you are taking down their characters, they are respawning and able to fight. It poses itself as a real-time strategy type game where combat is happening constantly. Although there's not a ton of strategy yet, it feels like the game needs to be built out a little bit more, but you do have special attacks that your characters can use that will help you to strategize a little bit of how to get to the other person's base faster and take them out. This has only been out for a few days, but there's ratings already, some of which were because people were able to play test the game ahead of time. People saying this is really a Moss hero chess tabletop, saying that they found it very well implemented, but they're hoping for more sophisticated maps and maybe some more advantages. One person giving a medium review saying that if you love the Easter eggs, you love the Moss universe, you're probably going to enjoy this, but it definitely needs more to it. They're saying instead of real-time combat, they would have preferred it be turn-based. Another person saying it's awesome and free, so why not try it? I'll say it does have some great references to Moss, and if you're into these kind of games, I'd say get it, download it now, and get in and play it with people. It's something that I probably won't revisit until it is built out a little bit more, or if there's someone specifically I want to play it with, because it's not always my kind of game, but it was really cool seeing like the Moss church again that you're inside of in the game. Dead Man's Quest was a bit of a hidden gem. It's only been out a few months, and it was something I just stumbled upon. This is more of a point-and-click adventure type narrative story, but I will say it had surprisingly some of the best looking graphics I've seen on Quest games. The art style of the game is designed in a way that looks really good with the resolution of the game. This is meant to be a point-and-click type of adventure using hand tracking, although you can still use controllers if you prefer that. This takes you on a ghost's journey, hence the name Dead Man's Quest, through a pirate-filled era of time where you are on an island trying to figure out what's happening, but you can possess people and actually take on their abilities to then help you further your way through puzzles. Ultimately a puzzle game at heart, this has 8 ratings, giving it about a 4.9 rating. 87% 5-star and just 13% 4 stars. People saying it's fantastic, some of the best graphics they've seen on the Quest. People saying you got to give it a chance. It is a bumpy start, but once you get through it, since there's no tutorial, it gets really interesting. People saying they love the quippy dialogue, and I will say there is some very self-aware, even maybe a little bit of adult type humor in the game that does make it really fun to play through and listen to the dialogue. My advice, this would be a great game to keep on hand in case you're demoing hand tracking to someone or just letting them try something new in VR. It doesn't involve locomotion, so it shouldn't make people sick, but if you do play through this, make sure anytime you have an opportunity to take something with you, take it with you. Otherwise you're going to find yourself waiting around to go back and get something you're going to need. There's a multiplayer version in playtest of a game I'd like to give a quick shout to, Dragon Fist VR Kung Fu. Normally $30 on App Lab. They are going through a multiplayer playtest right now until next year, and if you want to get in on that multiplayer playtest, you can do it for free. You can download this on App Lab. The only caveat is you have to join their Discord because they switch out the secret code each week that you will need to get in to actually play this game together. The full game itself gets great praises, but it's really cool that they're adding this multiplayer mode and letting people check it out for free. This playtest is supposed to go into the new year. So far, there's only 4 ratings of this, all 100%. People saying they love it. Other works done by Ben Olding have been absolutely amazing games, and that the work that goes into them is very clear. You can unlock a lot more content in this if you do end up purchasing the full game, but this is a cool way to get in, test out what they're doing, and see what it's like to play something like a VR Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter where you're actually fighting in it. Thanks to R1VQ who suggested a really new game called BumpyR. This is like a VR bumper cart simulator. Advertises itself as a casual social VR game. You actually take your meta avatar, so you get real immersion if you crafted yours to look just like yourself, and you're driving this cart around in this colorful world and crashing into other people. This feels like one of those games when you find it like Fall Guys or even kind of like Gorilla Tag, when you get into it really early, long before it blows up, and it feels like if it gets built out the right way a little bit more, there's going to be a huge audience that goes after this game. In just a few weeks since it's been out, it's cranked out 17 ratings at still a 5-star rating. 94% 5-star and only 6% 4-star rating. People saying this is an amazing game. The physics and the driving are great. People saying the only problem was there just wasn't enough people to play with. People saying best co-op racing. People saying it's more than you think. And of course, no bad ratings at all. I suffered the same problem when I got in. I didn't find anybody, although this was earlier, right after it had come out. I feel like this is a game to watch out for or even download now, because I feel like it's going going to have a future as long as it finds those people. Next Move is a surprise app that just popped up on App Lab free. It calls itself Next Move Demo, but this is not a demo of a bigger game, or at least it doesn't seem to be. What this is a demo of a different type of locomotion that could be used along VR and more of a proof of concept of how it works. It's a VR platforming that doesn't use any joysticks at all. And the motion is not like Gorilla Tag either. To run, you lock in your grip buttons and you move your arms like you're running, and then when you want to jump, you reach your hands up into the air and let go of those. Or if you actually jump in real life, I found it to kind of be the simpler way to get this to actually work. It's got simple graphics, but surprisingly beautiful levels you're navigating through as you're playing this. And then as you go further in the game, you unlock things like guns and more types of puzzles that you're going to be trying to get through in these levels. It hasn't been out long. It's got 3 ratings so far. 2 of those are 5-star and 1 is 4-star. People saying that it shows a lot of promise. They had to give it a shot. People saying it's really well done. I will say, make sure you get that jumping motion down before you actually start going into levels, because if you don't have that right, you're really going to struggle through this. It reminds me of other parkour type games like Stride that are on Quest, and it's actually a pretty cool one to check out. Mansion Mystery reminded me of an I Expect You to Die type of game where you're working with puzzles, but with full locomotion as you're moving through this house trying to figure it out. It is much lower end type graphics, but they do look good in and of themselves. This one hasn't been out long enough to get any ratings so far, and when I say it hasn't been out long, it's been out for a matter of weeks. No reviews to tell you so far, but I'll tell you, going through it, the puzzles are pretty intuitive. Some of them are way easier than others, but your character sometimes kind of talks to you to help you figure out what's going on. But if you're into puzzle games, especially ones that take place in a real environment with all kinds of different objects around, this one is actually kind of fun when you're in it. If you do decide to try this one out, let me know in the comments since it had no ratings, or let me know how far you make it into it. Cardio Combat Fighter is a street fighting game where you are literally throwing hands. And I say that not only do you punch in this game, but when you punch forward, a hand comes out from your hand and you can actually hit distance targets, which I didn't figure out at first when I was trying to just punch everybody in the face and was taking a lot of damage. This is set in Japan after the outbreak of a zombie virus where you are the only one who can save the world, but apparently the world sees you as a threat and they're all trying to take you down. There's also some telekinesis abilities. This brawler actually kind of reminds me of earlier days of Blade and Sorcery, where you have the fun of picking up characters, punching them through the air, picking up other weapons that they've dropped. This is a demo version where you can play the 2 stages for free, and it's only got 1 rating so far at 5 stars with no written reviews. I had a lot of fun playing this, and I was pretty instantly getting sweaty because you're really throwing a lot of punches to take down these enemies. In the main menu, you can actually mess with some of your stats. I really wish there was a free mode where you could turn your stats way up and just see what happens if you punch someone as hard as possible. They go flying, because some of the ragdoll physics of these characters was a lot of fun to mess around with. If you love street fighting and ragdoll physics games, this might be one to check out. Velocity Rush reminds me of the early days of VR where you're playing on a 3 Degrees of Freedom headset where all you had to have was a controller in your hand that had 1 button on it, and you'd be propelled through this course. That 1 button would help you jump, and you're fighting obstacles kind of in like a 3D Flappy Bird, if you will. At first glance, when I got into this game, I thought I was going to be totally bored and be out of it in a few minutes. I will say, as the levels progress up and the puzzles get harder, it is a lot more fun, although there's less and less checkpoints as you go on, which makes it a little bit more frustrating too. It's got 8 ratings though, giving it about a 4.9 rating, so some people are definitely loving it. Some people saying it's simple but good, they found it addicting. Some people saying that review was literally true and they agree completely with that review. And people saying perfect for what it is. This is designed to be a simple game that executes a feeling of speed as you're moving through, and you're literally just timing your jumps or how long you're holding the jump to get through it. If you're someone who enjoys these challenging high-speed jumping type games, I actually had a good time with it, although I'll be honest, I don't see myself getting back into it again just because I would have to progress through it and it sounds like too much work. Stick with me on this one. Unbuild VR is going to be the most surprising game on today's list, because in the first few moments when I got into the game, I absolutely hated it, but the longer I spent in it, the more it turned around. The first line said, "It's like Jenga and Angry Birds had a baby," so I thought you were going to be in destroying towers and having fun. It's quite the opposite. You are more deconstructing a tower piece by piece, but kind of like Tetris, you don't know exactly which pieces you're going to be working with until you get to the next piece. The object of it is to completely deconstruct the structure in front of you without the physics turning on you by taking the wrong piece at the wrong time and watching it all tumble down. If anything hits the ground, it's over. This game has some horrible mechanics about it. That's why I hated it in the beginning. And you try to move, there's this really tight vignette that comes over your face. The menus in the room are in your way, and there's no music. It's just this very quiet picking of pieces. Once I put on some relaxing music in the room, learned what I was doing, and I learned to stay in place next to the structure and move the structure around by grabbing breaking the board underneath it, I actually found myself wanting to continue playing this just to try and beat these stupid puzzles. The only other mechanic that gives you any chances as you unlock stars in it, you get jokers, and a joker basically just swaps out the pieces with some other random pieces. So if you're at a point where having to take a blue block is going to destroy the whole structure, you'll use one of your jokers and maybe it ends up being a red cylinder that you get to switch to pull out instead. The menus can also be moved. There's a little tab underneath them so you can kind of move them out of the way and reset the room the way you want to. I really wish it would add settings to take away the vignette, settings to change the movement style, and maybe even change which buttons do what. But I actually, even as we speak right now, I want to get back in and try and beat this puzzle again. HeliRaid is like a VR version of those old school helicopter shooters where you are in the helicopter shooting down on targets trying to help someone get through a map. It's extremely early to show up to this game. It has barely been out for a matter of days now. And with that, you only get one level so far and potentially a few different guns. You are tasked with being on the helicopter manning the gun while one person is down on the ground trying to move through it, and you have to not only not let them get shot by them, but you have to not accidentally shoot them either, which I shot them in the back of the head on accident one time. Only 9 ratings so far, putting this about a 4.7. 78% of those are 5-star ratings, and the rest are split between 4 and 3 with no 2 or 1 stars. People saying this is a great immersive shooter, saying it has potential, saying they can't wait for the full game. One person even saying it reminded them of the Matrix scene with the chain link gun. The vocals in it are definitely a bit cheesy, but I had a good time on a run through, and it's a game that if it gets more levels and you can unlock more guns, and I see a lot of potential in this. This might be one to download and try now or wait and see how much more content comes out for it. But it's definitely something that I had a good time playing because there just haven't been a lot of these kind of simple 90s action shooters kind of helicopter games, and it made me realize I kind of want a little bit more of that in VR. I'm adding one little bonus here at the end because, well, it's a wave shooter and it technically says it's a demo, so skip it if you want. But Nightfall Warriors Hunt the Supernatural with Your Companion demo is a wave shooter with different types of weapons, spells, but the biggest gimmick that this game has is it can be played with another person through their mobile app. Granted, the other person is considered the companion. They are helping you by healing you, staying near you, giving you a shield, or flying around the map and picking up loot while you're still alone on the ground fighting different monsters that come at you. A little bit of interesting things to it, like there's silver spells to help fight off these wolves. You can light your arrows on fire to set a part of the map on fire, or put down tar to make a bigger fire. It gets better if you stick with it long enough, but in the beginning it feels very slow in progression, and I was like, I really wish this would move a little faster and get to those better weapons I was looking for, like the handguns and the shotguns. Again, brand new, so no rating, so if you do decide to check this one out, leave a rating. And with all that, we've covered nearly every free game on the Quest 2. That means here soon we're gonna have to talk to you about all of those. But are there others out there that you love that maybe we haven't covered, or I can help direct you to which video we covered it in? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you once again for being here with me, and I will see you in another reality.